Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Table Rush Talk Show. I'm Mischa, your host, and today I'm thrilled to have Payman Lorenzo with us. Payman is not just the creator of the Leaders with a Heart podcast, but also a story of transformation and inspiration. From a shy individual to a charismatic podcast host and coach, Payman's journey is nothing short of remarkable. Today, he'll share his unique insights on connecting people, the magic of podcasting, and how embracing your true self can lead to unexpected success. So let's dive in and discover the power of connecting and growing through podcasting with Payman Lorenzo. You know when someone is selling from stage and at the end, the audience gets up and rushes to the back of the room to buy? That's a Table Rush. My name is Mischa Z, and the Table Rush Talk Show is all about bringing you the tools, strategies, and tactics that you can use to grow your audience and inspire them to buy. Welcome, everybody, to the Table Rush Talk Show. I'm your host, Mischa, and I am so excited to have today with me Payman Lorenzo, the host of the Leaders with a Heart podcast and YouTube channel. Let me just say that you're prolific right now with your interviews. So everybody needs to go to Listen with a Heart YouTube channel right away and just look at all the amazing interviews. But anyway, the Leaders with a Heart podcast and YouTube channel is more than a podcast or a YouTube channel. Your vision is to build a community which brings together and connects ethical entrepreneurs who are building business with a heart, a mission, and a purpose. And the dream is to inspire other entrepreneurs to do the same. You've written some books as well, yes?
Yes, sir.
I think, right, we were chatting literally a minute before I did this introduction, and you said, I think you're working on book number 4 or some such thing.
That's correct. 2 books as a contributor in a multi-authored book, and now working on my second book, which is showcasing some of the most inspiring, empowering, and goosebump-inducing stories from 3 years and 300 episodes on my podcast. And yeah, it's very exciting. And theme of the book is, what is your gift? And how are you sharing it around you and around the world in this lifetime?
Love it. It's beautiful. I am looking at Amazon right now, Amazon Prime, the Leaders with a Heart book. V1, I guess. Yeah, there it is right there. Global entrepreneurs creating massive impact. And I love your little tagline on here. It says, there are powerful stories and there are inspiring stories. Then there are goosebump inducing stories that are both inspiring and powerful. And you've pulled 20 stories from, at the time, what were 220 interviews, yes?
Yes. That was a year ago. That was launched exactly on Friday, September 30th of last year. And it was very successful, reached a highly coveted rank of #1 bestseller in multiple countries and 19 or 20 categories within the first day of being launched. So I'm tremendously grateful for the hard work that the team, the publisher, and all the contributors put in to make that happen. And now we're looking to take that to the next level now with volume number 2, which is releasing in on Thursday, January 25th of 2024.
Awesome. January 5th, 2024. Book
January 25th.
January 25th.
Yes.
2024, book number 2. And another 20 stories?
Around that, yes. We're looking.
The other thing that I think is super fun about you, because we've had a chance to talk a couple times before doing this interview, is that your belief in the power of podcasting as a medium to get your message out there or your gifts out there, as you so eloquently were telling me earlier. You know, it's not even about a message. It's about, hey, how the power of being able to use podcasts as a platform to get your gifts out to the market. And yes, right, that you I don't believe I'm understating that when I say that.
No, First of all, I'd like to say thank you for inviting me. It's an honor being here. We just finished a powerful an hour and a half conversation on my podcast where you really open your heart, your soul to really get to know you as a person, as a human being, as a man. You shared some really touching and really personal things about your life. Really grateful that I invite everybody to listen to that when it's live. But I love talking to you, man. I love your vision, your mission, one thing you said at the start of a conversation about 2 hours ago, and that was when you wake up in the morning, you ask, "How can I serve today?" And I wrote it down. And another thing that you mentioned that I wrote down, which is very in line with what I'm doing, is your mess becomes your message. So
Yeah.
so many things, absolutely honored, blessed, grateful, delighted that we connected, and I'm super excited for this beautiful conversation on your show.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you for that. Um,
Pleasure.
yeah. And I just, you know, so many opportunities to go deep, but I was struck by our very first conversation. Well, Monica Kremendall introduced us, another podcaster, good friend of both of ours, and she said, "Hey, you
Mhm.
two need to connect." She was absolutely right. Our first conversation, though, and I do want to touch on this, and I think if we started with this, it would be a ton of fun, but we can see where this goes. But was you very eloquently or expertly talk about how somebody can start a podcast and then use that podcast as a tool to grow their business. Yes.
Totally, absolutely.
Yeah, so maybe break that down for me. I know this is a very broad question, but talk to that a little bit. Like how can somebody do that?
That's a very big question. That's something I've been talking about for the last 3 years. So the gist of it, for me, podcasting, I'm very passionate because podcasting completely transformed my life. You know, uh, we just did part one. We'll do part two on my podcast next week. And the last question I ask all my guests, and that's my favorite question to ask, and that is, what is the smallest thing you've done that has had the greatest, deepest, most profound effect and impact on both your life and business? And for me, the answer is unequivocally starting my podcast because that single decision completely changed my life. Forget about the financial aspect. As I told you, I used to be extremely painfully shy. I used to be self-conscious because, hey, I'm not a celebrity. I don't have a PhD. I was even very self-conscious because I have a big nose. I have no air. All these insecurities that we all have. Yeah, these were some of the things that were holding me back. But then I realized it's not about me, it's not about you, but it's about your message, your gift. And the way that you can leverage that to podcasting is when you start a podcast, don't just talk about this is what I teach in my academy to my students. Not even rule number one, rule number zero. Never speak from a script. Don't even speak from here, but speak from here. Because when you speak from here, that's when the magic happens. That's when people will really pull the guards down, open up to you, build that trust, that confidence. They can resonate with you. They can get to know you as a person, as a human being. Because what is business at the base? It's not a numbers game. I know you're a numbers guy. Sure, numbers matter, but ultimately, business is a relationship nurturing process. By you being completely vulnerable, opening up, and sharing who you are, it's going to attract automatically, magnetically your ideal clients. And this is what I've been doing. It's what changed my life. Use a podcast. You know that the traditional way to monetize a podcast or YouTube channel is through, okay, build a massive audience and make your money through sponsorships, ads, and downloads. That's nice, but that applies mostly to celebrities or people with massive existing audience. When I started, I had an audience of zero. Zero. I'm not a celebrity. I don't have a PhD. I don't have nothing. And
Let me
yeah,
ask you a question. Yeah, start date, first time you, when did you start your podcast? Like episode number one?
3 years ago, exactly 3 years ago to the day. So for me, I found a way how to monetize a podcast a different way by, and I will tell you the story after, but the way I've been able to do is just, sharing my story, becoming authentic, sharing exactly who I am. And then from a business aspect perspective, it identify who's my ideal client, identify who they are, and just inviting them, interviewing my prospect on my podcast. Because when I started by applying this method, I was able, the first weekend, I realized this. I was able to get 6 paying clients within the first weekend. And then over the next 10 months, 60 clients, high ticket clients. No cold calling, no spamming, no cold email, no ad spend. And all of that with a YouTube channel of less than 200 subscribers. When I say that to people I know a lot of YouTubers here that are massive audiences. Whoa, how are you monetizing your podcast? So, well, my podcast has been monetized traditionally through YouTube for a year and a half. I haven't seen a single penny from it because my YouTube channel is still standing as of today, Friday, October 20th at 9:16 a.m. here in Asia at only 1,323 subscribers, which is absolutely nothing if you want to monetize a traditional way. But I found a way to monetize it with a YouTube channel of less than 200 subscribers. Again, by identifying my ideal clients, prospects, and interviewing them. And on the interview, I don't sell, I don't pitch, I just build that connection, that rapport by being vulnerable, by sharing who I am really and allowing them to open up the heart. When you open up the heart, then there's no need for both of you, you connect heart to heart, man to man, woman to woman. There's no need to pitch, to sell, as I like to say in a funny and cheesy way. I told you, no need to seduce or kidnap someone to do business with them. Hey, what do you do, Mischa? Oh, I help entrepreneurs get more visibility, for example, or share a message. Hey, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Can you help me? Sure, let's set up a time to talk. In that, when you build that trust and rapport, there's no need for you to pitch, send proposals, or convince, get on a discovery call, or God forbid, in a sales call. Who wants to get on a sales call? Nobody. But instead, hey, let's have a conversation, get to know you. I have nothing to sell you, just get to share your story. By identifying ideal clients, by inviting your ideal clients on the podcast, interviewing them, to build a trust and rapport, that's where the magic happens. This is the gist of it, at a very high level, what I've been doing, what changed my life, how I built my podcast from 0 to 300 episodes in 3 years' time, and got into publishing, built my business, completely get back on my feet financially, but also reinvent myself. Because again, I was painfully shy. I was jumping, from one business to another, chasing the next shiny object. But now I found my voice, I found my purpose, and this priceless, is invaluable. For me, the two most beautiful, powerful, benefits of business are number one, the impact I'm having in the lives of people I work with, and number two, the beautiful friendships and relationships I build in the process. The money is icing on the cake. The previous version of me, the unawakened version of me, it's all about money, but that's not good. Especially once you become awakened, once you see things at a higher level, then you realize that, hey, it's all about, just like you said, I love what you said earlier. How can I serve today? How can I help? How can I serve? I can make you shine. When you build your business, you approach around that, then the money, I swear to you, Mischa, money takes care of itself. Money manifests itself in a magical way. I've seen it in my life. It's not cheesy. I'm sure you've seen it in your life as well. And people that will listen to this will resonate as well, because they're all heart-centered. They're not just profit-driven. Sure, we all need to make money, but let's do so in a way that is meaningful, impactful, and purposeful. For me to win doesn't mean I have to screw you. You have to lose, I have to win. No, I win, you win, he wins, she wins, we all win. Because if I win and you don't win, we're not going to talk again, let alone do business again. But if I win and you win, see, for me, the people I invite on my podcast, they're not just a guest. The clients I get to my podcast are not just a line on the spreadsheets. We become friends. We get on calls. Hey, how's your mother? How's your father? How's your brother, sister? Just like you would catch up with so-called real friends. Because these are real people. Real people having real conversation and real meaningful, deep connections. I went on a big tangent. As you can see, I'm very passionate. I tend to talk too much, so I'm going to shut up. I hope this answered your question.
Amazing. Yes, and that's what I was hoping for, actually. I wanted the audience and you listeners to get a feel for Payman's passion. And I guess a question I would have for you is, when you went to start your podcast, did you have an agenda with it, or did you know what you were trying to do when you started your podcast? Or yeah, go ahead.
Great question. When I started, I had no agenda, no purpose. I started for one reason. I'm from Canada, Toronto, and during the pandemic, Canada was one of the strictest countries in terms of restrictions. We live in a small town outside of Toronto, thank God, it's in the countryside. So half the year you're frozen, and the rest of the year you're locked inside. So I had to find something to do. I don't watch TV, and there's so many books you can read and listen. I've been consuming podcasts since they first came out back in 2006, 7, whatever. I've been involved in podcasts, as a co-host before. My background is e-commerce. I lived in China, built and sold a brand on Amazon. So I was doing a podcast with Amazon as a co-host with 7-figure sellers. I used to host events, conferences with them, speak at conferences. So when I came back from Hong Kong and China, back in Canada, I asked myself, what the hell can I do that's going to allow me to do the three things I love most, which is helping people, inspiring people, and connecting people. That's where my podcast was started. But at the time, I wanted to launch a brand of products on a crowdfunding Kickstarter website. So my initial goal was to build an audience to launch my product. But because it was a pandemic, I couldn't find anybody to make it. I didn't want to do it in China for various reasons. I looked into Mexico, I looked into Italy, I looked into India, I looked into other places, but nothing was happening because the logistics were completely shut down worldwide. Maybe that was a message from the universe. Hey, that's a great idea, but put it on shelf. So, but because I was bored and there's nothing else to do, I was having this wonderful conversations all day long from the moment I woke up, from 9 o'clock in the morning to basically passing out at 10 o'clock at night, having 6, 7, 8, 10 conversations, Zoom calls with people, doing 3, 4, 5 podcast episodes. My podcasts are long, about an hour and a half. We just did one for an hour, 17 minutes. And that's only part one. So I was having all this conversation and indirectly, it's funny. You can plan things, but more times than not, it never goes the way you plan things. The universe unfolds your true direction. So I was doing this conversation. I don't know. I didn't realize at the time. I was attracted to heart-centered entrepreneurs. I've always been very heart-centered, very about helping, inspiring, and empowering people. I was talking with all these heart-centered spiritual people, and I started to say, I love these people. I love this conversation. And that was, in a way, podcasting played a massive role in my own awakening. Prior to the pandemic, if you ask me about spiritual, say, stay away from me, you're a cuckoo, whatever, stay away, don't waste my time. But now you're heart-centered, I welcome you with open arms. You're my crowd, you're my tribe. So in that way, podcasting completely saved my life because I was bored, there's nothing to do, and it helped me in a way save my sanity. Because what else do you want to do? After you're frozen, it can get very cold in Canada from right now, mid-October, to pretty much May. It can snow. And so you have to find something productive. So at first, I had no idea. I wanted to initially, yes, start a podcast to build an audience for my upcoming launch of my crowdfunding campaign. But then once I realized this is not happening, but I was enjoying talking because I like talking in a way. And in a way, podcasting allowed me to overcome my shyness. I told you I was painfully shy, but by being in front of camera, I told you I was also very self-conscious. I have a big nose, no air. So I was shy because camera shy. But then I said, you know what? Who cares? It's not about me. It's about the message. And this is one of the most powerful realization I came across is it's not about you or me, Mischa, but it's about your message, your gifts, your lessons. This is what we are here. I told you earlier when we talked, we all go through a fair share of pain, tragedy, dark heart, and all that. They hurt a lot when we go to them, but then they become our story. Then our story becomes our gift. Then our gifts become our duty and responsibility. Sure, we all know that life is a school. We come here to learn, grow, and become wiser. But from my humble understanding, that's only 5% of why we are here. The 95% is taking those gifts, those lessons, those wisdoms, and sharing them with others so we can all collectively rise to whatever means is more comfortable and convenient and natural for you. For me and you through podcasting, also for me to publishing. For someone else might be through music, through painting, through arts, through sports, dancing, whatever. Find your outlet and share your gifts. That's one of the most powerful realizations I came across over the past few years. Again, I went way out in tangent. I'm the tangent king. I should start a podcast just a tangent king. Seriously.
It's amazing. We're kindred. We're kindred.
Does it answer your question? What was your question again?
No, yeah, I know, right? That's amazing. So quickly.
Okay. Keyword being
3
quickly.
years.
Okay.
Oh, what's that?
Keyword being quickly. Okay.
Quickly.
I'll keep it in mind.
No. Go as you like. So you if I heard you correctly, you'd had some success previously with some building a product, selling it on Amazon, maybe having an Etsy store, or not an Etsy store, a Spotify store or something like
Amazon,
that. Amazon store. Amazon. Okay. Great.
And having an exit, it was purchased by an investment firm in Hong Kong 2 years later. Yes.
Well, that's amazing. And then you were speaking on stages. Is that what I heard you say a little bit too? Or?
Well, at first, because that's also one of the part that allowed me to overcome my shyness. I used to go to events, conferences around e-commerce, and then I get to become friends with the host, the people. These are very successful 7, 8, 9, 10 figure sellers, both Chinese and expats. At first, I was just helping them hosting their events. Then I helped them host events for them in my city in China where I was living. And then I was asked to speak, and I was hosting my own events. Also, I hosted events also on wine because I grew up in the southwest of France, close to Bordeaux. Wine is a passion of mine. I did wine tasting, wine education events for the Chinese. So I've been into events. I'm a connector. I love bringing people together. I love making sure they have a good time. I shine into that. I went from being completely wallflower shy to being enjoying the limelight, so to speak. When I went to events, I was the life of the party. I really embraced that fully. Like, wow, I love this.
Do you remember that shift? Do you remember when you went from? Yeah, go ahead.
I think it was part of, getting out of your comfort zone. In China, you find yourself in a place, you're surrounded with people, yet you will find yourself incredibly isolated because you're not able to read or understand anything's going on. Even for you to do the things that you take for granted, just ordering at a restaurant. The first night we arrived, I'm going to share a quick story that allowed me to overcome my shyness and be the catalyst for me. Arrived at the restaurant, straight from Canada. I don't even have a SIM card yet to translate. Of course, I don't speak Chinese. The restaurant has only a Chinese menu. I want a chicken. So how do you convey the message you want chicken? Pak, 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 pak. I just did this. Pak, pak, pak. One of my colleagues, he wanted some seafood, some crab. So he just took a napkin and then just drew it. As far as side dishes, I just stood up, went around the tables of other people eating, and just started pointing. Tick, 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 tick. Hey, you got to do what you got to do to eat, man. So I think this was the first moment that allowed me to step out of my comfort zone. Because if you look at things, why they happen, I think me going to China was one of the main reasons for me to overcome my shyness, to get out of my shell and become the person I'm meant to be. The outgoing guy, the connected. For me to fulfill my role of being a connector, I need to be outgoing. I cannot be a connector if I'm shy and reserved. Does it answer your question?
It absolutely does. So I'm curious, how old were you, and what brought you to China? So your hand is forced. You're like, somehow I'm in China trying to order dinner, and I've got no option but to do something that I normally wouldn't do, and be a clown. Yeah. So how old were you?
Well, let me backtrack. I've been a nomad, a traveler all my life. I've lived in 14 countries, 4 continents, speaking 6 languages. So China was not my first rodeo, so to speak.
Okay.
My father was a geologist, psychologist, traveling around the world. So it's been in the family, in the DNA. I was 34, 35. I got a job offer. I couldn't refuse football. I grew up in France, Europe, and most boys in Europe, their dream is to become a professional football player, soccer player. That wasn't a destiny for me, but I got a job offer in the summer of 2015 to go to China as a football coach, as a soccer coach. And I said, I didn't even look at the terms. I just signed it. I signed it. I went there. I was a football coach for 2 years. So they provided me with a visa, with an apartment, with a job and all that. Living the life, I saw that as an opportunity to get paid, to get in shape. For me, I didn't see that as a job because football is my passion. I can spend days watching football on TV, even forgetting having the need to go to eat. Yeah. So when you offer me to go play, to go teach these kids, share my love of the beautiful game, which is the nickname for football in China, I just jumped at it. The money wasn't big, but I didn't go for the money. I went for the experience.
Yeah.
So I did 2 years as a football coach, and then I started building a business in China around football, and then I got into e-commerce, and I did a lot of other things, but that's the gist of it. Again, at the time I was 34, 35, so spent 4 years in China, and then after the year in Hong Kong, and there's more to it. We can unpack that later on, but
yeah. So cool. So you 4 languages, I think. I heard
6 languages.
So we've got French,
French
English. Go ahead.
So French is my first language. I speak Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, Persian, and I also speak some English too. I need to improve on that. So okay. English is my 3rd or 4th language, something like that.
So when you get the job offer to go teach kids soccer in China, are you a coach of kids in the US, or are you
in Canada? No,
in Canada,
absolutely not.
Sorry. No, absolutely not.
I will tell you the genesis of it. Before that, I was working in the oil fields in Canada and Western Canada, Alberta. So when the price of oil collapsed, I got laid off, went back to Canada. I tried to get back in the corporate world wearing a suit and tie. I lasted 3 weeks because it wasn't for me. And I asked myself, what can I do with my life? I don't want to go back to corporate. One thing I understood very early is the tremendous power of questions. And the right question can completely change the direction of your life. A friend of mine from Canada, I knew, he introduced me to a recruiter to go to China as an English teacher. I said, I don't want to go an English teacher. But he said, just go have a talk with him. I said, okay, we had a call on Skype. Back then, there was no Zoom. So on Skype, we were just chatting, getting to know each other. And he asked me one question that changed the course of my life. Literally, he said, we talked about passion, football, and passion. I said, hey, can you coach football? I said, absolutely, I would love to. He said, okay, would you like to come coach as be a football coach in China? I said, oh, I would love to. I didn't think anything of it because I thought it was just part of just chatting. And the guy said, okay, let me see what I can do. And I swear to you, Mischa, 24 hours later, I had a job offer in my email inbox. And I signed it so fast before the guy even changed his mind. I said, oh, sorry, that's a mistake. I had no credential as a football coach, but I played football for all my life. I played up to a decent level in France, up to under 15 nationals. I was very fast forward. So I knew the game, and I've been watching the game for as long as I was literally born with a football, so. And
Natural.
absolutely, it's in you, just like boys that play basketball or baseball or football or hockey, whatever. It's a passion. They have it in them. And me going and sharing my passion, my love with kids and schools, I said, hey, that's a made in heaven. Let's do it.
What was your number one takeaway from being a soccer coach to Chinese kids for 2 years in China?
Patience. Patience both toward the kids and also towards the teachers. I will never forget the first day I went. Well, the first week after I got settled in an apartment, I went to meet the principal. He took me to introduce me to other teachers and watch some of the trainings of students with other teachers. There was a translator. He said, "Oh, I want my kids to play like Barcelona. Barcelona back then were the best team in the world with Messi." I said, "Okay, sounds good. That's a very beautiful goal to strike for." And when I looked at the kid, with all respect due to them, I'm talking like grade 7 to 8 to 9. They could barely even run. Forget about controlling the ball. So that's going to be a tough challenge. Kids that can barely run, they were like learning like penguins and all that. Seriously, no coordination. Again, with all respect due, but it is what it is. So that's going to be a tough one. So I had to really start from the beginning, from the basics. There was this requirement of the principal to have his kids play like Barcelona, which is all about possession, pass, passing, fast movements, beautiful tricks. I say, well, that's pretty hard. You're talking about the best team in the world. These are professionals being paid millions, It's going to be tough for kids. So, okay, let's see what we can do. What kind of material we have at our disposal. And again, it was very frustrating. Also, I didn't speak Chinese. I didn't have a translator. I had a translator for the first two sessions, but then I had to do everything myself. I had to show everything, and then a lot of frustration. So I learned to be patient like there's no tomorrow. And you can't lose your cool when you're dealing with kids, especially of a completely different culture, language. I learned that hard the fast way. That was again, remember what we talked about earlier this morning when you were on my podcast? What is this trying to teach me? What is the lesson for me to learn to that? It was very frustrating, but when I stepped back, I learned, hey, I need to be patient. Not only with the kids, but also there's a massive cultural and language barrier.
Yeah.
The school is doing what they can, the best they can. They'd love to provide me with a translator, but hey, maybe they don't have the budget for it. So I need to be understanding.
Yeah.
So
do you anything you carry forward from that experience, that 2 years, into what you do now as a podcast coach, or with your podcast academy, teaching people how to start podcasts, how to monetize their podcasts, build those relationships?
Again, patience, understanding, and these are the two big ones: being understanding, being patient, putting yourself in their shoes. That applies to anything, and your personal life, friendships, relationship. Have empathy, put yourself in a position that you can only make the person be seen and heard That's very important. These are things that I learned there because, again, when you're teaching, in China, the culture is you never criticize someone in public because you make them. And in Asian culture, it's not in Chinese, Asian culture, losing face is incredibly painful. Nobody wants to go that. And that's why in Asia, when you ask someone a question, they will never say no because they don't want to lose face. They don't want to look like being incompetent, incapable, whatever. Even if they have no idea, they'll say, yes, yes, sure, sure. But again, being empathic, knowing about that, the cultural understanding, and not criticizing people openly, being careful what you say, how you convey your message. One thing I learned in life is that and I was having this conversation yesterday with a gentleman from Toronto on the podcast after the call. Said if you take a whiteboard, you map out the different phase of your life, say at 15, at 20, at 25, and all that. What you were doing at each age, they were completely unrelated, but each of them prepared you, taught you the lessons you needed to learn to get to the next phase. Even you, for example, if you map out, for example, you have a board behind you. If you map out the main phase of your life, they may be completely unrelated. But if you look at them and ask, what did that teach me? What are the lessons that those taught me or that I learned? Each of those prepared you for the next one. And what you're doing now at this time, at this point in time, Mischa, is preparing you for your next chapter. So when I learned that, I saw that. Back then I didn't know it, but now I'm looking retroactively, I can see that. What I learned back then, being patient, compassionate, understanding, that was the first step for me to really opening up, to really being more I thought I was caring. I thought I was, because I'm art-centered, I can empathize with people, but oh boy, was I wrong. Oh boy, was I wrong.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Took a bunch of Chinese youth, teaching them how to play soccer.
Who can barely run.
You can barely run. Oh my gosh. What is the biggest difference between, and let's look at this, Chinese kids, if I'm allowed to say it that way, Canadian kids, because you're Canadian, US kids. So maybe like what was the most striking difference you saw between the Canadian youth and Chinese youth that you interacted with?
In what way?
I'm thinking, I mean, there's this illusion or this idea, I think, that the Chinese youth are driven, their success is the only option, and there's no latitude or flexibility within that, right? And would you say that that's true? Or
yes, we have it so easy in the West compared to China, because in the US, Canada, Western world, you're in a classroom with say 30, 40 other kids. In China, you're in a class with 200 other kids. In China, everything is multiplied by 10, because when you're competing with 1.5 billion people, and that's the official number, probably 2 billion people, anything is an incredibly fierce competition. I saw the students, they were waking up at 6 o'clock, they have pre-classes, and then they go to school, and then after school, they go to other classes to learn other skills, to prepare them for the next stage, to pass exam. They love exam. They love to do anything they need to pass an exam. The competition is incredibly fierce. To succeed in China, you have to be really, what's the word that I'm looking for? You have to be really, it's a very cutthroat, beyond what you can imagine in the West and the US. It's really almost like, there's a word that is skipping me right now. Anyways, I'll come back after, but it's incredibly competitive. We have it so easy here compared to there, because also there's a one-child policy. Back in the West and Canada and the US, if you have a corporate career or business, you have a retirement savings plan. In China, they don't have that. Your retirement literally is your kids. You take care of your kids when they're young, and I hope that when you're retiring, they will take care of you. So you see how parents literally worship their kids, because they know, hey, this is my retirement. Literally. Yes. So when you realize that, so wow, it's like, it's incredible. I would say the Chinese kids are much tougher, much more resilient, because again, it's literally dog eat dogs over there. Literally.
Mm.
When you're competing with me and you growing up, or even when you're applying for a job, whatever, in a class, maybe you have 30, 50, 60 other students. In China, it's 200. You want to apply for a job in Canada and US, maybe what, 100 applicants, and China, 10,000 applicants for the same position. Imagine being only one or two positions for 10,000, 20,000 people. Imagine the stress.
Wow.
And when you spend it, when you go to those tests, depending on results, you go to specific high schools, and then those high schools open up the doors to specific universities. That literally dictates your life, where you're going to end up, and the level of success you will reach. It's not like back in the Western world, it's up to you if you can make it. You work hard, you can make yourself a name for yourself, even if you don't have a degree. But in China, no. It's slowly changing, but boy, it's incredibly fierce, incredibly competitive, cutthroat, and yeah, you really have to be tough.
Would you say as a whole, just generalizing, would you say that Chinese kids were happier, less happier than Western kids, American, Canadian kids?
They're happy because happiness is very subjective. But what I did realize is that they're under incredible pressure, expectations from family, from society, from school. They have to be able to, from a very early age, they have to learn. They basically have no time to breathe. They have no youth. They don't have the luxury of, as kids growing up, we go, for example, skating, biking or whatever, playing video games. The kids in China don't have the time for that.
Produce,
Exactly.
learn.
It's incredibly stressful. Yes.
Yeah.
And what was your question again?
Oh no, I was just curious. Yeah, I was curious if you thought like setting, American kids or Western kids versus Chinese kids, Eastern kids. Are the Chinese kids
Oh,
happy as
happier.
a whole, or yeah,
If you label happiness in a way to make their parents happy, yes.
yeah,
But if you talk about internal happiness, absolutely not, because they're dreading it. If each day you're waking up, even as a kid, like 5, 6, no, maybe not 5, say 8, 9, 10 years old, you know what a long day is going to be. You're gonna be in school. You go to school at 6 o'clock. School start at 7:30
yeah,
until 4 o'clock. And 4 o'clock, you get maybe 1 hour break, and you have to go to a training center to learn English, to learn whatever you're trying to learn, to work on your weaknesses, private classes. You're basically home at 10 o'clock.
mm,
And then you have this mountain of homework.
mm.
Basically, you're going to bed maybe at 1 o'clock and wake up at 6 o'clock again.
And there's probably a percentage of the kids that love that and thrive in it, but there's going to be a good percentage that
Sure.
would rather be playing with
Sure.
Legos or digging
Yeah.
in the dirt or something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
It's crazy. Yeah.
yeah. So you started an online business to do with football. So you teach the kids, and that contract winds down, and you're inspired to.
No, actually, I was a football coach, like in person, working in schools, and then also on the side, I was also doing teachings. I was teaching also on the side English at every level, from kindergarten to university, teaching the doctors, nurses, business English, as well as French, Spanish, business, as well as football classes. I was teaching a lot of things. I was enjoying it. I was loving it. And also, I tried to build a business around football. Like me and my back at the time, business partner is French, also very connected in the world of professional football, and we were trying to bring professional football clubs from Europe and South America to China to grow their brands and to open academies, take kids from China to summer camps in Europe and South America. So we were doing some very big stuff, but that's a different story. We can do an entire podcast on that. I did that for 2 years, running around the country. The last 2 years I was in China, and wining and dining, all meeting some incredibly powerful people, incredibly, ridiculously wealthy people in China. And the Chinese are incredibly generous. When you go they treat you to a restaurant, they basically bring everything on the menu for you. And even said, just me, why are you wasting it? No, just okay, just whatever. Incredibly generous, incredibly kind. Something funny with the Chinese, when you do business with Chinese, especially in China, you never talk about business right away. They want to get to know you. And one of the tests they put you through is they want to get you drunk, and not drunk with good out. They have a Chinese liquor that's called baijiu. It's the worst thing you can imagine. It's awful. Sorry, my Chinese friend, please don't get on me, but I love it. It's very strong, like 50, 60% alcohol. It's white. It's really, remember those commercials from the 90s from this massive pharmaceutical company called Buckley's?
Yeah.
They said their slogan was very simple: tastes awful, but it works. That was the slogan. That's exactly it. It's awful, but
it works.
It gets you drunk like there's no.
Oh my God, it's like Everclear.
It gives you the worst, hangover you can imagine. So Chinese love to get you drunk.
Okay.
To really test you as a man, or mostly as a man. And once they see how you can handle drinking, man, they will open up business. And they will treat you to a restaurant, to entertainment. Kind of entertainment that probably would not be PG-13 to mention here, but you can. Hey. Nothing is off the record.
Nothing is off the record.
Whatever you want, you get it. Just name it.
So are you having fun? Kind of.
Oh yeah,
doing this stuff. Yeah,
I loved it. I love my time in China. I wish I could go back. I can't wait to go back. I still have amazing friendships there, friends, and China is a phenomenal country. I'm talking about the culture of the country. I'm not talking about the government. That's going to be a different story. That's the same for every country in the world.
Yes.
The people are some of the nicest you can imagine, especially once they get to know you. Incredibly friendly, incredibly generous, kind, very driven, incredibly smart.
How are you communicating with everybody? Are you learning Mandarin, or
I tried, and I thought I was good with language because I speak 6 languages. The only 2 I learned in school are English and French. The rest I learned by myself without taking a single class. But Chinese is a completely different ball game. So what I was doing, I had the translator app on my phone. I would just translate and put it in Chinese in front of them, because me and you as Westerners, if you have a non-Asian face, you talk to a Chinese in China, in Chinese, they will freeze, because most of the people are not used to seeing Westerners or non-Asian people, non-Asian Chinese people speak the language, even if you say it perfectly.
Yeah.
They say, huh?
So doesn't make sense. The picture doesn't fit.
They freeze.
Yeah.
You have to repeat 5, 6 times. And then when you finally show the characters of what you just want to say, they repeat the exact same thing back to you. And it was incredibly painful. Frustrating at first, because, hey, this is exactly what I've been trying to tell you for the past 5 minutes. So this is another way for you to test you and to really teach you to be patient. To be patient. Incredibly patient. Even you go to a restaurant, ordering something as simple as whatever. If you, as a Westerner, you say it, they will look at you. Shama, what? And then you show it in a character, or if you have a Chinese friend beside you, say the exact same thing, the exact same intonation, they understand right away. It can be incredibly frustrating.
Yeah. So I guess there's some whole. So you were in China for 2 years. Before that, you were you said something about
China for 4 years. 4 years in China.
You worked on oil rigs. Were you like what do we call that?
Redneck.
Yeah.
Roughneck. No.
Yeah, roughneck.
I worked in Alberta in Western Canada, and I was a do you know what's NDT? Non-destructive testing?
No.
So basically, it's a welder's inspector. We were X-raying pipelines, and these are pipelines that are carrying gas and oil. So what we do when the welder does his job, we will scan it. We will take a camera with a radioactive material to scan it. Just like you have a broken arms, you go to the doctor to scan you to say nothing's broken. We did exactly the same thing with a camera that was containing radioactive material. So you have to be very careful. It exposes it and all that. And it was fun. It was really fun. So I did that for 2.5 years. It was fun in the sense that you were working with literally redneck. Most of the time, they were just playing country music. That's when I started to learn to love country music. And when you work in that environment, you can speak your mind freely.
Yeah.
No filtering. And this is why when I went back to corporate world, I couldn't last because I was always had to work on eggshells.
Yes.
But over there, you just speak your mind. Just a man. You just be a man. Be and a manly, even sometimes macho. But hey, that's expect. If you don't, you're not gonna last long in that environment.
Yeah. What were the the other places that you've lived for, let's say, more than 2 or 3 years? So we've got Canada, obviously, where you were.
I will tell you. Okay, so I was born. You will not. You probably won't. Okay, I was surprised of you. I was born in Afghanistan.
Oh.
Okay. My father was one of the first people in Afghanistan back in the 60s to get a full scholarship to study both for his undergrad and postgrad in France. He was an archaeologist, geologist. So in 79, when the Soviets invaded, I wasn't born. You know, communists, they don't like intellectuals. But thankfully for us, my father at the time was working in France. That was literally our opportunity to save our lives. And I wrote about that in my first book, how we left Afghanistan. That alone is worthy of a book. We can do an entire episode on that. But then, so born in Afghanistan, I was 4 years old when we left. Spent a year in Pakistan trying to get out of this. So, and then when I was 4 or 5, we went to France. So from the time I was France to 14 in France, and then 14, my family moved to Canada. And then as soon as I could on my own, first place I went was Brazil. Fell in love with the country, the place, almost get married. And then after Brazil, back in 2007, I was supposed to go to law school. Everything was ready. But then a book changed the trajectory of my life, The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. I ended up not sending my application to law school, to the dismay and horror of my parents. And instead, I started my first online business. And that took me around the world. Thailand, Philippines, Argentina, Brazil. What else? China as a football coach. Hong Kong for a year. I've been the past 6 months. The big chunk of this year, I spent it in Malaysia. The picture you see behind me, that's the swimming pool of the building I stayed for the last 6 months in Malaysia. I absolutely love Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. And now I've been here in Vietnam for the past, it's been a month exactly. So I'm a slow traveler. I don't like to cram, say, 10 countries in 5 days. That's not me. I'd rather do 6 months in a country to really immerse myself and get to know the people and all that. So I've been in a few places, not counting, of course, the place I've visited.
Yeah.
But I absolutely love this. I love the world. The more you travel, the more you realize the world is so beautiful. Especially nowadays, another massive topic that I'm very passionate about is called geographical arbitrage. Have you heard of that? Geo arbitrage?
Go ahead.
So you earn money in a strong currency, like say US dollars, pounds, euro, Japanese yen, or Canadian dollar, whatever. And then you live in a country where the currency goes so much farther.
Yeah.
It's not just about saving money. Sure, that helps, but ultimately it's about drastically elevating the quality of your lifestyle. For example, when I was in Canada, I left Canada November 1st, traveled, went to Italy, Thailand, Portugal, Turkey, Greece, went back home in the spring and April, skipped the winter. I spent 2 months in Canada. Man, things are crazy expensive, like incredibly. I was spending $4,000 to $5,000 a month, mind you, Canadian dollars, which is still $3,000 to $4,000 US, without leaving the house. And I was lucky I was living with family, so I didn't have a mortgage or anything. Still, I was helping, contributing, but still, $4,000, $5,000 without leaving the house, just basically covering basic expenses, basic groceries. Forget about eating out, the socializing, nothing. So why? Why do I have to spend all this money just to survive? It doesn't make any sense. Whereas I can live, for example, in Malaysia, the place behind me, I was living my best life on $2,000 all in, eating out, and money was never an issue. I can do whatever I wanted to. Like the place, the building I'm showing behind me, it's a beautiful luxury condo in the heart of Kuala Lumpur. You see the Twin Towers behind me, the Petronas Towers, the postcard of Malaysia, just like the Eiffel Tower is for France. This is from Malaysia. It's a 10-minute walk from me. Across the street, there is a massive shopping center, amazing food selection, all of that. And I was staying at a 1-bedroom, fully furnished condo for $850 US a month on Airbnb. Utilities included, once a week or twice a week, maid service. And that's on Airbnb. If I were to sign a 1-year lease, it would be $400, $500.
Wow. Right
now in Vietnam, I'm staying in downtown, 10-minute walk from the beach. Very nice, spacious studio, $287 a month US.
Wow.
at the ATM machine here in Vietnam has a limit of 3 million dong that you can withdraw per transaction. 3 million dongs is 121 US dollars. That's enough for me to cover all my meals outside and drinks for anywhere between 7 to 10 days.
Get out of here.
I'm not kidding. Again, it's not about saving a buck. Sure, that helps. But it's about drastically elevating the quality of your lifestyle. For example, in the US and Canada, it's very expensive. You have to produce at least $5,000 to $6,000 after tax. So for you to generate that, you need to produce double of that. So imagine the stress. You have to produce each month $10,000. Half of it goes to the government before you even see it, taxes. And the rest, forget about it. You know, a room in a shared house in Toronto is $1,500 to $1,800. I'm talking a basement in the hood. A studio is $2,500. A one bedroom is $3,000. Two bedroom is almost $4,000. It doesn't compute. It doesn't make any sense. I don't eat at McDonald's, but just to give you an idea, the Big Mac combo with no cheese is $16. With cheese is $18. A basic meal at a basic restaurant with a bottle of water for lunch is $30 per person. And plus, you have to add an extra 15 to 25% tip just to pick up your food at the end that you cannot even not accept. So it's a racket.
Oh my gosh.
So here, listen, here I'm living. I haven't counted. If I were to count, I've been for a month now. I spend maybe 800 Canadian. That's about 600 US for an entire month, just for me. In Toronto, 600 each time, and I hate that. Each time you go to Costco, $400 or $500, just like that.
Just like that.
So again, it's not just about saving a buck. Sure, that helps.
Yeah.
But it's about drastically elevating the quality of your lifestyle. When you don't have to put yourself to a pressure to generate $10,000 a month, your life, stress is removed from your life. You can really focus on what really makes your heart sing. And plus, people are incredibly friendly. Sure, there's a massive cultural and language barrier, but hey, they're very friendly. They will do an effort to understand you. Plus now with Google Translate and all that, and they have apps. They speak in Vietnamese. It speaks it to you in English or whatever language, or they write it in Vietnamese and translate it in English. There's ways to get around it. Oh, cell phone. In Toronto, my cell phone bill alone was $65 for 20 GB of data. Here I'm paying, in Malaysia I was paying $10 US on a month-to-month as a tourist for 40 GB. Here in $10 US. Here in Vietnam, I get 6 GB a day, so 180 GB a month for like 160,000 dong. That's about $6, $7. Yeah, and that's as a tourist. Imagine if you were to pay to get a 1-year contract, a long-term deal.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. This is what I mean by geo arbitrage. Listen, guys, anyone listening here, with today's technology, it's never been easier to live abroad, to drastically reduce your cost of living and drastically elevate the quality of your life. As long as you can generate, if you're a single person, $2,000 a month online, you can live very nicely. If you have a family and kids, make that $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. $5,000 in US and Canada is not going to get you anywhere, especially in big cities. But in here, you're living it up. You're living it up, brother.
That's amazing.
We can have a talk after that offline, but I'm going to seriously, this is one thing that really gets me so excited to inspire people, to make them open their eyes to. There's a whole big world out there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is amazing. We'll have a round 2 and we'll talk more about travel, more about what you do, but I have to be cognizant of time. It's been an incredibly long day for me.
Sure.
Just quick, maybe take a couple minutes. And so I know we touched on it a little bit at the beginning about how you help people podcast and start their podcasts, how to grow a business around that. And obviously they can do it from anywhere. But where can people find you quick if they want to dive into that? And then
best way to look and to find me is on my Facebook. I can send a Facebook page to you. You can share it in the show notes. If you want to find out about my academy, it's my website is called leaderswithavoice.com. Leaderswithavoice.com. And I'd be happy to get on a quick meet and greet. It's not a discovery call. It's not a sales call. It's just meet and greet to literally get to know each other and to see, brainstorm and see how podcasting can be leveraged for your specific business, and open your eyes to how you can leverage. Because what is podcasting? Podcasting allows you to do three important things. One, share your story, allow your audience to know who you are as a person, as a human being at the soul level. Number two, display your expertise so you can really show, hey, I know what I'm talking about. And number three, because of that, because of you being vulnerable, being, transparent and sharing your story and displaying your expertise, it's going to automatically attract magnetically your ideal prospects and clients with no spamming, no cold calling, no ad spend, even if you have no existing audience to start with. Because when I started, I had absolutely nothing, no one, not even my siblings were following me, just to tell you, not even them. I had nobody that followed me. But again, it's not about the numbers. It's about the relationship you build with the people. And podcasting is the best way to do so because, again, you get to know the person, especially if you do it the right way, the way that I'm teaching. Podcasting can be completely transformational and life-changing if you do it that way. Number one, identify your exact ideal client. Again, we know it. Clarity is the name of the game. Don't try to help everybody with all of issues because that's something that only God can do. And me and you, Mischa, as much as we like it, we're not God. Instead, focus on one very specific person with one very specific pain point. It's what we do in my academy. And then once you have found that out, identify where they hang out and then invite them. For example, let's say me and you, we didn't know each other. If I were to send you a message on Facebook, call, say, hey, Mischa, I'd like to see how I can help you with your podcast. Three things would happen. No answer, not interested. Sorry, I'll have someone else, resulting in less than 1%. And that's what 99% of people are doing.
Oh, we froze. You froze. Let me hit pause.
Okay, so this is why 90% of people are doing business as, and that's not a fun way to do business because your account is going to end up getting shut down and you're going to run out of people to talk to. People are going to start ignoring you. But what if you were to invite them? And this is one powerful principle that I learned that applies to anything: business, friendships, relationships, family, anything. And if there's one thing I want you or your audience to remember is this: never put yourself in a position to ask, beg, or chase. Instead, invite. If I were to say, hey, Mischa, my name is Payman. I'm the host of the Leaders Podcast. I love what you're doing, and I would love to have you come share your story. The only question we would have left is, oh, absolutely, just say when. As opposed to, hey, Mischa, my name is Payman. I'd like to see how I can help you with your podcast and monetize it. Yeah, next. Especially if you don't know me. If you know me, maybe you'll be open to a conversation. But if you don't know me, next, because I know you are being approached all day long by people sending a friend request, and from the first message they start pitching you. I don't even respond to those. At first, I used to respond, hey, you want to do business with me? Get to know me. Let's get on a quick meet and greet call. And most of those guys, they were not even bother responding because they don't care. They're just spamming. Just the equivalent of dial and smile. Before, now it's spam, spam, spam. Smile and spam. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
So this is the takeaway. And whatever you do, whether it's a podcast, book, or even in person, always speak from the heart. Don't speak from a script. Don't try to regurgitate, sales script or sales, lines, or God forbid, pickup lines in the attraction industry, whatnot. It's not about that. Connect heart to heart. Don't even speak from here. Speak from here. That's where the magic is. And that's my tip for you guys. And that's why I'm going to shut up now.
Payman, this has been amazing. So much fun. I love it. Great takeaways. Love the geo arbitrage. So good. So
we can do an entire episode on that because that's something phenomenal that I'm very passionate about. That I saw the light way back in 2007 and 2008. And once you get a taste of that life, seriously, there's no back. There's no turning back.
Yeah. And what experiences you get to have along with it, right? So really open your eyes and embrace new cultures and just experience all that.
I want to be very, very, very rich in experiences.
Yeah.
That's something nobody can take away from you.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And you get to keep those with you to the next life.
That's right.
Material or money in the bank asset. No, the only asset you have is your time, your health, and your memories and experiences and lessons and wisdom and gifts.
Yeah, it's good. Fantastic. All right. let's get back to me to my night. I'm going to go have a late dinner. You are going to go to your day. Your birthday has just happened or happening. And so I know we have lots of festivities around that. And Payman, it's been a ton of fun, and I look forward to round 2.
Pleasure. Absolutely. Thank you once again for inviting me. Absolute blast. Can't wait talking to you again. I'm looking for part 2 for you in my podcast. Remember what I told you earlier? The person you need to interview. I'm not going to name her, but you know who that is.
Yes.
And yeah, this is fun. I'm excited to see what life is in store for us. And I can't wait to see what we can cook up together. What kind of magic we can co-create.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Table Rush Talk Show. For resources to help you sell your stuff, go to belove.media/resources. That's belove.media/resources. And be sure to subscribe, comment, 5-star, and share. Thank you again for listening.